Good afternoon and welcome to the 155th edition of the Georgia Farm Bureau Georgia Prep Sports Drive for the GHSA State Title. It's October 3rd and we have three great guests today. It's going to be Carrollton head coach Joey King. They're undefeated, about to host East Coweta in what is the best game in the state this week, in my opinion. I was looking at the schedule. You have Walton, North Cobb, Osborne, Kennesaw Mountain, Benedictine, Burke County, Whitewater, Trinity Christian, but this one just stands out. You have undefeated Carrollton looking red hot, and East Coweta, they've picked up big wins. They look loaded. So we'll be televising that one. It's going to be outstanding. And then also, we're going to have on Jeff Phillips, that is North Springs head coach. He's in year 2. It's a program that had a 16-game losing streak when he took it over, and now they've won 4 straight heading into their matchup with Chattahoochee on Friday. So I'm excited to get to know what North Springs is up to. And then Najeh Wilkins is going to return to the show, and we're going to close it out in the final segment, just catching up on last week's results and looking at some of the weeks ahead. So we'll go ahead and get started with Coach King.
What's going on, Craig? Thanks for having me.
Not much. So, yeah, I'm really excited about this matchup and get to see you guys. I mean, I think 7A this year just looks wide open. I mean, all the classifications do, but really in 7A, I'm telling you, there's like 10 teams right now that are playing outstanding. You guys are right in it. So what have you just seen just in the second year at Carrollton, moving into Class 7A, what you guys have been able to do?
Yeah, I'm super proud of our guys right now, and we've got a kind of a narrow perspective from a player standpoint. We really just hone in on trying to be our best team this week. It's something we preach from the get-go, and our guys have embraced that. Just kind of focus on us one week at a time, and there's been a lot of growth, a lot of maturity has taken place. We're still a fairly young team at some positions. So I'm definitely proud of those guys, and seeing their growth throughout the course of the season has been really pleasing as a head coach.
Yeah, and it's also got to just be fun for, I mean, the fans, the players, and everyone involved, because I'm looking at the results so far. You guys are producing so many turnovers, so many different guys are involved making big plays. I mean, I know you knew guys like Bryce Hicks were going to be good, but, I mean, it looks like everyone has really stepped up and kind of bought into this season and the goals.
They have. Bryce has been exceptional. He's probably our best football player, and not a name that a lot of people don't know about, but the rest of these guys have kind of just bought into our culture and how we want to do everything. Year one, you're trying to piece that thing together. Now year 2, that the roots of the culture that we're trying to establish here have started to really sink in, and our guys kind of understand what our expectations are.
Yeah, and that was a really tough region you guys were in last year. Really exciting. I think when all was said and done, it was probably one of the most balanced and deepest regions, I think, in any classification. So what was that like, just with the young team last year, just playing in like tough game after tough game after tough game in those region matchups?
Well, it proved to be beneficial for us this year. Moving up into 7A, I think it kind of prepared us. Last year in our region with, you had Douglas County who's doing a really good job, Coach White over there, and then Rome and South Paulding and us, all tied for first place. And week in, week out last year, any of those teams could have beat anybody. So we felt so good about them, we decided to put them on our non-region schedule to still get that that tough competition on the front end of that deal. And it's proven to be successful for us right now. We're playing pretty good football and trying to keep this thing rolling.
Yep, and you obviously picked up the win over South Paulding week 2, and you got the win over Rome. That was a really impressive one, 23-6. I think, though, when I look at your season opener, I mean, that really was a massive game. Not only does Julian Lewis, your freshman quarterback, come out and put up the 5 touchdowns. He's playing outstanding. Bryce Hicks has the big game, but your defense, I think, had four touchdowns in that first week.
Yeah, they did. I'd take that every week if they wanted to do that. Anytime you get defensive touchdowns, and we emphasize it. I mean, we want our defense to score. We're trying to take the ball away every play, and those guys have bought into it. They kind of feed off each other. But I would definitely take a 4 defensive touchdown performance every week if we could.
Yeah, that was Kelvin Hill, Tucker Waldrop, I think Jay Farmer, and then John Jacob Levy had the fumble recovery touchdown. and I'm looking at it. It looks like on the season, you guys have had 11 interceptions and 6 fumble recoveries. So would you say that's been a huge difference just in your second year there is uh, just the opportunistic defense and the big plays you guys have been coming up with week in and week out?
Yeah, it is, and we just emphasize, taking what they give you, do your job, be where you're supposed to be, and then those plays will happen. But year two into this deal, Coach Montgomery and our defensive staff have done a phenomenal job just emphasizing defensive production. And it's something that those kids have taken a lot of pride in week in and week out, and hopefully we can continue that.
Yep. And I mean, you're obviously in this tough stretch coming up. You're going to have to prepare for these 4 quarter games. And so against South Paulding, I believe that was a 21-21 nothing, or sorry, 21-21 tie game heading into the fourth. How did your team just handle that, being in that position and being able to close out that victory?
Yeah, they did a good job. We had to score late to win that one, and then use our 4 minute offense to put it away. But our guys just about trusting the process and not getting caught up in the situation. Not panicking. In those moments of adversity, we always emphasize the fact that you revert back to your level of training. You never rise to the occasion. So we put a lot of pressure on them in practice, week in and week out, and our guys they stayed level headed and just trusted the plan.
Yeah, and then I'm going to talk about the Rome game right here, but first I wanted to just point out, so Bryce Hicks last year, I mean, he had I think it was 17 touchdown runs, 5 touchdown catches. So, I mean, he has been a player that can do both. But in that Rome game, he has the 19 carries, 104 yards and touchdown, and then 10 receptions for 108 yards. So let's talk about how big he was against the Wolves.
Oh man, he's great. Bryce is again, he's our best football player. He can play corner, safety, nickel, running back, receiver. I mean, wherever we want to put him, he's just a football player. He's going to make some college look like a really really good coach one day. But he's great. He comes to work every day. Once he looks at the game plan, he's ready to go, and he's always a big part of it. I'm definitely excited to have him healthy and playing as well as he is, just as a junior. Knowing we got him for one more year after this one too.
Yeah, so Bryce was red hot against Rome, and then Julian Lewis, his numbers were exceptional, 22 of 26 passing. And then you guys have the big shutout win over Villarica, and then Jenkins, and then this last win before the bye against Hillgrove. What did you see in that one? Because it looks like Hillgrove didn't give up. They kept coming back, trying to get back in the game, and just it seemed to be a good effort all around for you guys.
Yeah, it was. I still feel like we played well. We gave up some stuff. We had a couple of busts in coverage there later in the game. And Coach Deshaun had those guys ready to play. I thought they had a really good plan on both sides of the ball, but super proud of our guys for coming out and executing. I think Juju played well. They got us behind the sticks a couple of times, and he kept his eyes downfield, saved some plays with his feet, and did a tremendous job for us as well.
Yeah, and you guys jumped out to the big 28-7 lead in the first quarter and just held on, and that was an impressive start for sure. But I was looking at that. It looks like you had a sophomore receiver. Is it Kiwan Kofer?
Yeah, Kyan Kofer. Yeah,
Kion, sorry.
Kyan. He's a dynamic player. We just got him back. So last week was our first week having him back. He came out against Alexander in our scrimmage and had an injury, and last week was the first week he was back with us.
Yeah, well, that's a huge addition. He had the 5 catches, 130 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Jordan White also had a touchdown catch. Seth Childers, Caleb Odom's involved, and of course we know Bryce can catch it too. So was Takari sitting out that game, Takari Lipscomb?
No, Takari had a kickoff return for a touchdown.
Okay.
So he did a great job. We're very fortunate in the fact that we've got multiple guys that we can get the ball to, and that can make plays. And those guys are doing a tremendous job. We don't have one guy that's going to have all the catches and all the yards and all the touchdowns. We got a bunch of guys. We believe in spreading it out, trying to take what the defense gives you. And those guys have done a good job of embracing that and not get selfish. Sometimes those receiver rooms are tough to deal with. But our room is really, really solid, man. We got some great kids in there, and they're all team guys.
Well, that's crazy. Yeah, because I was looking at how big Takar's been in some of these matchups, and yeah, I mean, if you look at it, you guys have thrown the 23 touchdown passes so far this season, and it is just so evenly distributed. You have a bunch of guys that are at that 300-yard range. I think you have three guys with over five touchdowns, and then like seven guys total have gotten involved. So would you say that's, I mean, obviously Bryce Hicks, he's the special playmaker, but in terms of the most depth at a position, would you say it is at receiver right now in your skill guys?
Yeah, it's one of them, you know. But yeah, those guys again, we're gonna spread it out and let them all touch it, and just kind of going into the game, we don't really just say, hey, we're gonna try to get him X amount of catches. We just go in and make adjustments, and our guys are great with supporting each other in that. So it's been a special group to see them kind of come together and gel, and they know on any given play that they could get the ball.
Yep. And I guess the one position that hasn't gotten involved a lot is the punting, because you guys haven't had to do that too much. But is that Andrew Albertus or Alberts?
Yeah, Albertus, he's done a great job for us when given the opportunity. But I tell him almost before every game, I hope he doesn't get to play. But sometimes flipping that field and letting your defense play the way our guys have been playing, that's not a bad thing. But he's done a really really good job for us all year too.
Yeah, so I had a 54 punt against Jenkins. That's a big leg right there. And then in terms of field goals, that's Jacob Russell. He's been solid for you guys all season.
Yeah, Jacob's done a good job. Jacob had a really good run down the stretch in the playoffs for us last year. Kicked a couple of field goals against Buford, and has hit some big field goals in some big situations. We haven't kicked a ton, but we're definitely confident in his ability.
For sure. And so we had Coach Small on last week, East Coweta's head coach, and I think he hit the nail on the head because he was just talking about 7A football. He's like, every team has a good quarterback. Every team has a secondary that can come in and tackle and make plays. I mean, there really is a lot of similarities just with all the teams. They all have the ability and the playmakers to just be solid. They put the best 11 on the field. I mean, what have you seen, though, with this East Coweta team? Because, I mean, they look really good this season and look like a team that can match up with anyone.
They definitely do. I mean, they've got some size on the defensive line. They got two brothers that are playing on there, that number 4, number 0, that are both about 6'3", 6'4". Their internal guys are stout and strong in 44 and 91. I think their linebacker core is solid, and then they've got some long athletic bodies on the back end, not just athletic, but long and athletic guys. A lot of times those, if it's an athletic DB but he's smaller, it doesn't concern you as much. But they got a lot of guys with some length on that end. And then on the offensive side of the ball, I think they're very physical up front. Their center is probably my favorite offensive lineman that we've watched this year from an opposing team. He's nasty, got a little grit about him, and plays really really hard. Their quarterback, he can beat you running and throwing. They got a running back that's solid, and then they've got several receivers that have just taken over some ball games. This number 7, I don't know how long he's been playing football. Somebody told me he had always played basketball and just recently started playing football, but he's definitely dynamic. So they're solid in the kicking game. Coach Smile does a really good job of running a program, and they're definitely dangerous in all phases.
Yeah, they sure are. And I think in both of their losses, the Stars Mill one and the Lambert one, they had 5 turnovers in each of those games. And so when they are protecting the football and getting rolling, they are very just solid and hard to beat. And I think the center you're talking about, I think it was Recruit Georgia deemed him the most relentless blocker in the state.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he's a multi-year starter, and that's quite a tag to be recognized for, just getting after it play after play. So, I mean, how has your defense, they've obviously had a lot of success, but, I mean, how do you prepare to kind of disrupt this East Coweta offense and just continue to force the turnovers like you guys have?
Yeah, well, I mean, we just we gotta keep the quarterback bottled up, not let him get loose. Make sure we do a good job of mixing up coverages and fronts, to try to keep them guessing and keep them off balance. It's like pitching a good game. If you let a hitter sit in there and get a balanced stance, he can tee off on you. So we just got to make sure that we we fly around, try to get hats to the ball, and not let them just hone in on what we're trying to do.
And then for people that are going to tune in this week to watch the game, I mean, I think something that's going to stand out is just the facilities at Carrollton and just all the things you guys have going on there. So, I mean, just what's that been like, just having the indoor practice facility? I mean, you were at at Cartersville. I mean, that's a great program, but in terms of just the resources and the support, I mean, Carrollton's really at the top of the class.
Yeah, it's been great. It's been great to be back here. Just the support that exists here, not just for athletics, but for every student. I mean, my oldest son is in robotics and all kind of stuff, and I mean, hands down, it's the best place I've ever been, and I've recruited all over the country. So we're definitely blessed to have the support that we have, and the atmosphere here should be great. It'll feel like a fall Friday night, having the game televised and the place packed out. Will be something special to see. Excuse me.
Yeah, I mean, do you expect that 130-yard home stands to be filled on Friday?
Yeah, we hope so. We've really had good turnouts at every home game that we've played this year. So we hope it's packed out this Friday night.
Yep, and then of course that stadium also hosts all the track events, and I mean it is a really great atmosphere for sure. But other than that, I mean you have these young guys. You've gone up to college. You returned to Carrollton, a great historic program. I think you were doing an interview with what's his name, John Nelson from GPB, and you were just saying that going to college taught you that you guys were doing things right at Cartersville. Kind of put it in perspective what works and what you were doing well just when you were at college and able to look back. But I mean, have you changed anything since this return back to the high school levels, since what you learned being in the college
Yeah,
ranks?
I think that's a good question. I say we've changed. We just try to continue to sharpen it. Just from a detail standpoint and what we're doing from a ball standpoint. But running a program is running a program. I used to I text Kevin Whitley, who's at Georgia Southern. Coach Whit was a high school coach, and he and I would go back and forth some. When I was at the collegiate level, there's really not a lot of difference in running a program. At the collegiate level, there's a whole lot more money involved in it, and then you add recruiting to it. But just the day-to-day operations of running a football program and managing a team are very, very similar. I think one of the things, and I mentioned it earlier in our interview here, one of the things that my staff has always done a good job of is really, really having their thumb on our culture and the climate of our team. And I think that gets overlooked a lot. And I know it's a catchphrase and for a lot of people to talk about the program and their culture, but I think that's something that we've always done a really good job of, and I've been fortunate enough to have assistants that embrace that and kids that embrace it as well, because I know it's not like that everywhere.
Yep. And then just the other stat that popped out to me when I was talking to Coach Small was he said that his roster has 39 seniors, and it was over like 200 guys. So, I mean, that's going to be key. They've got that great senior class leading them. But what do the numbers look like from your camp, just in terms of the size of the overall roster and how many seniors you guys have?
Yeah, we're still young. I think we've got 24 seniors, which is a good senior class for
Yep.
here. But I mean, they've got 3,500 kids in their school to pull from. We've got 1,700, so it's a little disparity there from a depth standpoint. But our guys.
Can you hear me, Coach? Okay, it went out. Well, that was really interesting. Thank you so much, Coach King, for coming on. And yeah, we heard about all his receivers he has. Julian Lewis, he's been outstanding. The 23 touchdowns, only 4 interceptions. Bryce Hicks, I think it's pretty obvious that is the top guy on their team. He was great last year as a sophomore. He's having a huge junior season, and he's able to just be a constant, reliable player for them. He can average about 9 yards a carry. He can catch the ball. He can make plays in the open space. So Bryce Hicks, number 3, he'll be a player to watch against East Coweta, who is also really talented and having an outstanding season. If they can protect the football, I think that's been their recipe for success. They protect the football, they're going to win the game. But Carrollton is so good at forcing the turnover. So we are really excited about that one. On Friday, Najee will be talking to both coaches, and he'll have a preview up this week. So we'll be going deeper into the matchup. But we're going to take a quick break. Thank our sponsors, Georgia Farm Bureau.
Our mission has always been to support Georgia farmers. That's why we created Georgia Farm Bureau Mutual Insurance Company, providing financial protection that farmers needed. While this remains the same today, we've grown to protect all Georgians through home, auto, and life insurance. From the very beginning and into the future, we stand for every Georgia community.
We are our Farm Bureau.
All right, welcome back. So we're going to shift into Class 5A now with North Springs head coach Jeff Phillips. And they are coming off a big win over Northview. I mentioned before he got there, they had lost 16 straight games. I think they actually had let go with their former head coach in the middle of the 2020 season. And so he used to be an offensive coordinator at Wheeler. He goes up to Tennessee as a head coach, has a ton of success there, and then takes over this North Springs program with a mission to just build from the youth up. So they have something year after year, and they're having a big, strong start to this year. So we'll try to get Coach Phillips on. Okay, we don't have him yet. So, yeah, another thing he was mentioning just in previous interviews before the season was it's hard to try to find success at a new program by focusing on the seniors. They're only going to be there for that fall semester, and then they're gone. So he came in and really focused on the youth development. I think even their JV team's doing well. I saw an article they just had a big win this past week. So he's taken that youth approach. Similar thing he did. Yeah, he was at Austin East in Knoxville, Tennessee. He's a Knoxville native. He led the Roadrunners. Awesome mascot right there. The Roadrunners to 5 straight playoff berths, region championships in 2015 and 16. He was the Tennessee Coach of the Year in 2016, the Region Coach of the Year in 2017 and 2019, and he left Austin East with a 55-28 overall record, including a 13-5 record in the playoffs. So that is really impressive, and also I think over that 7-year span, he had 35 players go on to sign college scholarships. So he was really successful in Tennessee before he came down to North Springs, and that's a program that was not really accustomed to winning football games. I mean, I mentioned they were on a 16-game losing streak. I think before he got there, their last win was in like 2019, and so they only go 1-9 this past season. Had some competitive games. They're in a tough region, and then they come out the gates this season with a loss to Dunwoody, 21-9. We've had Coach Nash on. We've also had Chambly's coach on, who was impressed with Dunwoody when he played them, and then they've won 4 straight since. All right, we got Coach Phillips. Coach, welcome on.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing
Thank you for having
great.
me on.
Oh, you bet. I was really excited to get to talk to you just about what you've been able to do at North Springs. One of the things I was talking about before you got on was I think you were talking to John Nelson before the season about what your approach was going to be to get this program moving, and you said you got to focus on developing the young guys. When you first got there, the seniors, they're going to be gone. You want to have something returning year after year. And so how were you able to focus on the young guys, but also get them really bought in, able to translate that onto the field this season?
Yeah, it was, the biggest thing is just building relationships with the kids from day one, understanding that those freshmen are going to be there with you the entire time. So just getting in, you always love your seniors. You always want to give them the best. But it's just hard when you're trying to rebuild and create a new culture when they've been somewhere for 3 years and you're the new guy. The juniors, you got a better chance because, they were only with the other staff maybe for 2 years, so you still get that full year in. And we just kept telling our staff, we just got to get a year in, build a relationship with the kids, play the young kids as often as we can. Sometimes have to make some tough decisions when it comes to, maybe playing the upperclassmen, or playing a younger kid. But what you got to look at is you got to know that young kid is going to be there with you. And if you build that relationship with them now and you let them go through their bumps and their lumps, then hopefully you can have a pretty good football player that's going to sell out for you their entire time with you.
Yep, I think we had a coach on a couple weeks ago, and he said if there's even a conversation about a position battle, he goes with the young guy because he wants, I guess, that returning talent and development to benefit them in the future. But it also seems like you guys have taken an approach like offensively. Yeah, it's quarterback centered, but you guys are also versatile. You're able to go multiple and kind of does that work out with building the relationship with the players and kind of learning what their skill set is and then tailoring the offense to fit that?
Oh yeah, most definitely. I've always been a spread guy coming out of Tennessee. We've always had really good quarterbacks, and they've gone on to be able to play and do some wonderful things in the spread. But one of the things I always did when I took over coaching was just said that the quarterback has to drive the offense, not me. Myself as a coach, it's not really about what I want to run or what I think we should run. It's about what the quarterback can handle, what he can do, and it's just been a really good one. AJ started quarterback for us last year, the second game of the season. He took over, and with his skill set and the things that he's able to do, we felt like molding our offense into a little bit different. If you've seen us play before, even people that maybe know me from Tennessee. We've been more wide open in the past, but now we just go more multiple, do different things, and try to keep defenses off balance, and just try to apply pressure as much as we can.
That's awesome. So that's Anthony Young, right? But he goes by AJ?
Yes.
Okay, so AJ Young, he's the quarterback. You said he got some action last year, and so you've kind of shifted the offense into more different schemes. So what has helped out, though? I mean, who has stepped up from last year to this year just to put more pieces around him?
So it really started for us last year, basically in the spring, going through track season. Just getting our kids on the track running. I'm the head boys track coach here as well. So we got all of our athletes, and I basically told them if they wanted to run the ball in the fall, they better run the ring in the spring. So all those guys really just started stepping up. From Zion Solomon, our running back, to, like I said, most of our athletes, but our line, we couldn't do what we're doing now without our old line. We've been able to really run the football with Zion and AJ, and we got another young sophomore, and Jonathan Sannon and Jarquise Williams, who've been able to be, really dynamic for us in the run game. But it wouldn't work if we didn't have a Chris Johnson or Francisco Jacinto out there, receiver, that can keep defenses honest from stacking the box against us. So it's just been a real all-around effort offensively for us to have success. And then obviously our defense has been playing really well, so it allows us to be a little more aggressive. But if I was to really pinpoint it, like I said, it goes back, back in the spring when the guys got on the track and decided they wanted to become better athletes and got in that weight room and really got after it to become better players.
Did you guys get a new track?
No, we had got our track redone. We're supposed to be getting a new school here in a couple of years, so we're not getting anything new for a while.
I was jogging there a couple of years ago. You guys were working on something. I don't know if it's the baseball field or what, but yeah, that's a fun place. It was actually like right next to our old office, still pretty close. I know Jordan Dubroff's excited. I think he's going to try to catch your practice this week, so he'll be able to tell us kind of what the tempo is, and that's what I'm interested in. Just how have you guys gotten after it during practice and just being able to prepare both sides of the ball to handle this schedule?
Yeah, like I said, looking at our schedule, we know that obviously in 5A you got to be able to have the ability to have a lot of kids play. And so that's one of the things that we do. We just try to make sure we get everybody on the field, active, moving around. We try to create game-like atmosphere. We try to make it as loud as possible in the stadium where it's hard to hear. So you got to use your buzzwords and signals to just simulate that game like atmosphere, because a lot of times in the game, we do something right in practice. Is when as coaches, we're able to, walk you through it or talk you through it and kind of guide you through it. But then the game comes, it's wide open, and then all of a sudden you're wondering why maybe such and such kid can't get something done. Is because in practice he's been so used to being spoon-fed. So we kind of let our kids go out there. We have a thing where if kid fails more than 12% of the time, that means the drill is too hard and we need to change it. So we got to have an 88% success rate on all things. If not, that means it's too hard and we need to take it out.
Yeah, and talk about that win over Northview, though. I mean, that was a huge one. You're in this new region. You're opening the region at home. You've had the 3-game win streak going into that one. I mean, what was that like just to see you guys come out there, get the 27-0 win, and open up the region just in the win column?
Well, that's good. You know, anytime you can start the region off with 1-0 is really good. Obviously, with a good win at home for us and for our seniors, that's important. But like I said, with getting in the region, a new region, being able to go out and succeed, it's one game. You know, we tell our kids every day that was a great win, but it means nothing if you don't come back next week and add on to it. And every time you get a win, there becomes more expectations, more pressure, and you got to handle it. Our kids walked out the field Friday night. They was excited. They was happy. But then you saw a lot of them having that hunger and that desire to say, man, we left so much out there. We want to play so much better, Coach. So, you know, a lot of them text me over the weekend saying, Coach, we're ready to rev it up on Monday. Let's get back after it so we can try to go again 1-0 this week and try to stay undefeated in the region.
Yeah, so back-to-back shutouts. I know you have a junior defensive tackle, Antoine Barnett, and then your seniors, Charles Sewell and Lee Levingston. It looks like Sewell's at middle linebacker, and then Levingston is in the secondary. Just talk about those guys and who else on defense has kind of embraced that attitude and just wanting to just have that hunger to constantly improve.
Yeah, Lee obviously is on the back end, plays in the secondary. He had a 108-yard interception return last week against Northview for a touchdown. He's been doing a phenomenal job, obviously trying to travel with the team's best receiver. Again, he committed last year running track, got faster, really improved his game by getting faster. So we have a lot of confidence in Lee. Charles Sewell, we call him Chuck. He holds down the defense. He's our defensive leader, playing middle linebacker for us this year. He's having a phenomenal year playing and looking for big things. Again, like our defense goes around him, you know, for the most part, just being able for him to get us lined up. Antoine Barnett, you know, obviously he just makes all the right plays O-line for us and D-line. But one of the guys that's really stepped up for us is number 55, Derivian Fleetwood. He's playing defensive end. I think he's already at 8 or 9 sacks already for the year. About 14 tackles for loss already through 5 games. So he's having a dynamite year. And hopefully as the season continues to go, he continues to play really well for us.
And then what were the lessons you learned in that Dunwoody game? We had Coach Nash on. He was really excited about his team this year, the jump they had made. We had Chambly's coach on who played Dunwoody. He said they had some really talented players. So you guys end up – it's a close game, 21-9. But you guys obviously learned a lot from that game, just to be able to respond with the 4 straight wins. So what did you see in that opener?
Yeah, just we got to stay with who we are. I told the kids that I'll take that loss. Made a mistake as a coach. Did something I normally hadn't done in my 10 years. We made a mistake in the game, and it was a call that didn't go our way, and we kind of harped on it a little bit, and I didn't do a good job of, just be quite frank, I didn't do a good job of getting our kids back under control. First game of the year, and a lot riding on it. But we just got to stay. We got to do what we do. We got a little too cute, I think, in the opener. It kind of cost us a little bit offensively, and we put our defense and our special teams in a bad situation offensively. So, like I told the kids, I just learned I got better that I got to do. I got to handle certain situations better with referees and things like that, and it's helped, And that's really the thing that we learned, that we're a good football team that just we had to handle adversity a little bit better, and if we handle it better in that situation, who knows, it might be a different outcome. But hats off to Dunwoody, they played a phenomenal game. Coach Nash had his boys ready to play, and he made the adjustment, or he didn't let the moment get too big for him, whereas we did, and that was our big thing.
Yeah, and I think this next game is going to be so interesting. I mean, North Springs, you guys are coming in with the 4-game win streak, and then Chattahoochee, I mean, they've had tough sledding this year so far, 0-6, 0-2 in the region, so they are obviously going to want to come in and get that
Right.
necessary win. So, what do you think about what Chattahoochee has this year, and just what they're going to try to do to come to your place and spoil it?
Yeah, so we look at it. We really look at it in region games. You just throw the records out. It doesn't really matter. Region game, the records don't matter. Everybody, I'll say the media outlets, they'll look at the records, but these kids know each other from Chattahoochee to North Springs. We're relatively close. Some of the kids have gone to school with each other from elementary school to middle school. So it doesn't matter. It's a game of coming out there and playing. So don't get caught up in the records. Chattahoochee has done a phenomenal job with their defense and trying to bring pressure offensively. They got two quarterbacks that can do very different things, but also similar things. So it allows them to be kind of multiple on offense. And so it's going to be a really challenging game. I think the last game they had two returns for touchdown, whether it was a kickoff return and an interception return. So you obviously know they have athletes that can do some special things with the ball in their hands in space. But our kids know that they got to come ready because, like you said, you look at it on paper, it's a 4-game win streak versus a team that doesn't have one. But like I told our kids, we were just in that situation last year. So let's not forget where we came from. Let's not forget the happiness that we're having on Friday nights. And let's get to work and understand that both teams are going to be 0-0 on Friday night, and so will the scoreboard until the end.
And yeah, I was impressed with what you mentioned, just getting your guys involved in track and how that's paid off. But just in terms of your team speed, do you feel like that's going to be something that you guys are going to be able to use to kind of win these matchups in the region play? Just your speed, the way you guys play, and just that hard work.
Yeah, the track helped us out. Last year I think we were a little slow. Not a little, we were a lot slow actually. And then we just told them we had to get faster. That we had to commit to that, and that should help us out. We fared well last year in track, having the team go to state. All those kids returned. They obviously all play football, but they've all committed. And when you got speed, it just gives you a little bit more confidence. We all know that. Just like when you get size and strength, you have a little bit more confidence when you're going out against something. So we're definitely going to try to lean on our team speed for sure, but that's not to say that we're going to try to be a finesse team as well. We're definitely geared to play in that phone booth and slug it out if we have to. But we definitely want to allow our athletes to be athletes.
Yeah, and so we know A.J. Young at quarterback, Zion Solomon, Chris Johnson, I think Francisco, you mentioned him. And then on the defensive line, Fleetwood, he's the one racking up all these sacks. We have Antoine Barnett, he's playing both sides of the ball. He's also on that defensive line. But in terms of just the physicality of your defensive front, the ability to get the third down stops, the keys, and just tackling in open space. I mean, who else has been key for you guys, and who's going to need to step up in this next one against Chattahoochee and just moving forward?
Yeah, defensively, it's going to be good. One is, I give a shout out to our defensive coaches, especially, with Coach Vaughn and Coach Green and Coach Hodge, really putting that game plan together and staying on those kids every day about just the little things. But, for us to continue to have success, to step up, we need kids like Atiba Williams, who's having a good year, really solid year. We need kids like Nick Cannon, Aran Ivy, who's played linebacker for us. Nick and Aran both play linebacker. Mike Johnson has been having a phenomenal season this year as a senior, strong safety for us. So those kids got to continue to step up. We know we're going to get challenged, especially this back half of our region. We got some more pass-heavy teams. Not overlooking anybody, but we got a lot of teams that will throw the ball a little bit more. So we got to be a little bit more fundamental and a little bit more disciplined on that back end. And if we do that, we can turn our D line loose and let those kids like Fleetwood and Atiba allow them to go eat. When they would come off that edge, it's always see something pretty.
Certainly. I mean, just Cambridge, they're a passing team. But you mentioned Chattahoochee has the two quarterbacks. So what does that mean? They have just like two guys, one can run it, one can pass. Are they similar, or what's going on with that?
Yeah, they play two. I think they play a senior and a junior. They rotating around, basically kind of seeing which one gets the hot hand. They both throw it. Not, obviously on film, one of them runs it better than the other. It's not a quarterback run heavy offense, but again, they do some similar things. They love to push the ball down the field. They love to run crossing routes. They love to do those types of things. So you just have to be aware of where the quarterbacks are, because they usually just go which one has the hot hand. I think last game they started against Cambridge. They started number 10, but then number 16 ended up finishing the game, and he played fairly well for them in the second half. And in this past game against Centennial, might have been vice versa, where number 16 started, but then number 10 finished. So they just kind of looking for a spark, and whichever quarterback gives them the best spark, they go. They play equally for the most part, and they're just looking to see which one gives them the best chance. So that's a challenge for us, just knowing which one is in and knowing which one can do certain things.
Awesome. Well, yeah, it's one game at a time, so a big one against Chattahoochee this week. That'll be really exciting. Best of luck, Coach. Thanks for coming on,
Appreciate
and we'll have to get you on later in the season.
All right, I appreciate it. Look forward to it. Thank you.
Yep. Go Spartans. All right, so we'll be watching North Springs. Interesting, intriguing matchup against Chattahoochee. The two quarterbacks, they seem well prepared and well aware of what they're going up against. So we'll see if North Springs can keep that win streak going. So we're going to go ahead, take one more quick break, and then we'll be back on the other side.
Our mission has always been to support Georgia farmers. That's why we created Georgia Farm Bureau Mutual Insurance Company, providing financial protection that farmers needed. While this remains the same today, we've grown to protect all Georgians through home, auto, and life insurance. From the very beginning and into the future, we stand for every Georgia community.
We are our Farm Bureau.
All right, welcome back. So I'm pleased to report that Najeh is feeling much better this week than he was last week. I mean, he was under the weather, and I'm surprised he didn't crash and burn earlier with how hard he's been working this season, all the videos he's been putting out and mashing up, just the outstanding work he's been doing. And he still grinded it out last week, even though from home. But Najeh is back. He's ready to go, and we're going to talk about this recent win for Walton. It was a wild game, 51-49 over North Paulding, a total shootout. Hecklinski was great. Was it Boone Anderson for North Paulding was outstanding. Their running back, Poe, he was great. And just a really interesting game to learn from. I mean, I think Walton's offense still looks unstoppable with Bodeford and Wyatt Sonderman had a breakout performance at receiver and all those other guys. But, I mean, there's still a lot of questions defensively, and we've watched North Cobb this season. They've got one of the best offensive lines. They're going to try to play keep away, same sort of thing they did against Buford to stay in that game. Obviously, Singleton's still out, their quarterback, but they've soldiered on and been getting some wins. So this North Cobb-Walton game will be very interesting. But let's catch up with Najeh right now. All right, Najeh, what did you think just about last Thursday's game, the North Paulding-Walton one? I mean, that was absolutely wild. Walton's able to get that road win, but, I mean, I was just somewhat concerned with their defense. They just did not look full strength against that North Paulding team.
Yeah, so a lot happened in that game. Aiden Jackson went down, who plays both sides of the ball for them, receiver and corner. Bruner said coming into the game he thought he's one of the best corners in the state. I think that showed a little bit on the outside. In the second half, North Paulding was able to get it going with Jalen Poe, who had an 80-yard touchdown in that game. Boone Anderson was making some plays all over the field. When they got pressure on him, he's able to elude the rush and then make those downfield throws and those plays to Owen Dupree and some of those other receivers that they have. So I think Walton has one of the best offenses in the state, led by Jeremy Hecklinski, who has a 70% completion percentage, 1,800 yards, 1,700 yards passing, 18 touchdowns. He looked really good in that one. And, with the injury to Jackson, Wyatt Sonderman stepped up, 2 touchdowns. Cameron Lloyd stepped up, CeeLo Smooth, some people call him. He's really good, 3 touchdowns. Hunter Till won our player of the game. So I just think they got weapons all over the field. The only concern for me is that, they can go toe-to-toe, I think, with any team in the state. It's just going to be the defense. Can they get those necessary stops? Will they be able to slow down some of those elite teams like a Mill Creek or a Buford or possibly a Grayson? We've seen them go toe-to-toe with Mill Creek in the season opener in the Cork Classic. They lost 44-41, couldn't get the stop late, but their offense is going to keep them in games. And they got playmakers all over the field.
Yeah, they did force a couple times where North Paulding had to settle for field goals. I mean, those were good stops. But, yeah, I mean, they really struggled in the secondary once Aiden Jackson went down. But I think you're right about Hunter Teal. He had an outstanding game, well-deserved for player of the game. And I think Walton knows exactly when they need that big play. And they're a team that just always seems to have that answer. So I think describing them as a team that can go toe-to-toe, I think that's exactly right. They aren't going to blow anyone out, but they also, if they have the ball in their hands and they need points to win the game, I think they'll be able to do it. The only reason Mill Creek beat them is because they scored and didn't give Walton enough time. But what do you think about their next matchup against North Cobb? That will be really interesting.
Yeah, that's a big one. A very big game against North Cobb. North Cobb obviously going to lean on David Medinga, who's been having a great season so far this year. I forget the school he's committed to, but, the obviously going to lean on the rushing attack, and I think this is a big region opener for them. It's a home game. It's going to be on TV, GPB. So, and I think we talked earlier this week, Craig, I think this is the 5th game they have on TV. I think they got to come out firing quick, lean on, obviously, their stud, Makari Bodiford. He did, I think, have a late injury there, so I'm not sure if he's playing or not this week, but see if they can get Aiden Jackson back, who looked like he was kind of hampered by ankle injury. Tried to go there on the sideline, but just couldn't, put a lot of pressure on it, and it was kind of struggling running the ball. Just try to get on the field. So I think that's a big one. That's obviously over. And then the one next week, Craig, is big too, because they have undefeated Kennesaw Mountain that they're going to play as well. It's also in their region. So I think, they're going to know a lot about themselves in the next couple of weeks as far as Walton, but I think they're a good team. But, I mean, that North Cobb matchup, who I also seen Shane Queen there at the game when they played North Paulding, I think it'll be interesting.
Yeah, for sure. North Cobb, they've got such a great offensive line. Yeah, we'll see. I think it's going to come down to the wire again. Walton's not going to get blown out by them. I mean, they'll have the answers offensively. And you are right, though. I did see Bodiford go down, but he did return to the game, but he certainly looked banged up. I'm not sure what it was, so that'll be something to look for. And then Kennesaw Mountain, they play Osborne this week. That should be an interesting one. Osborne's come out of nowhere. They look good up in 7A. And then another one that's going to be interesting, obviously, is our game, the East Coweta Carrolton. We were talking about that one weeks ago. And, what a matchup that's going to be at Carrolton.
Yeah, I mean, like me and you've been putting a spotlight and notice on Brady. Tell me he started, basically football, about 2 years ago, and he's been having a phenomenal season. Then you pair that with Christian Langford, sophomore quarterback who stepped in. Coach said he's mature beyond his years, having a great season so far this year. I mean, they got playmakers out there. They have a great running back. And, they went toe-to-toe, I believe, and almost defeated Lambert, who's still undefeated, I believe. But, yeah, this is a good East Coweta team, so it's not going to be an easy game. But then on the other side of the ball, Bryce Hicks, Julian Lewis. I think I said a few weeks ago they had 3 receivers that had combined for almost 1,000 yards. So they got playmakers all over the field. And this is a very deep team, as you alluded to earlier when you talked to head coach Joey King. They have a lot of depth. So I think this is going to be one of those games. I wouldn't be surprised if it's a shootout.
Yeah, Bryce Hicks, I think that's going to be the big player to watch. He's just able to do so much for Carrollton, and he's been unstoppable this season doing it all. A great junior. So, yeah, there's going to be a lot of underclassmen in that game to be watching. I'm excited about Carrollton's freshman quarterback. You got East Coweta with the sophomore one, but I think they're going to be really motivated just after that Lambert loss. And they had the 5 turnovers in that game. Coach Small was not happy about it. The players weren't happy. He said they showed up the next day in the weight room and really took accountability. And as I mentioned, both of their losses this season have been plagued by the 5 turnovers, the Stars Mill one and the one against Lambert. They also had the trick plays that Lambert was able to run where they kind of got fooled on the halfback pass. So I think they're going to come in with an attitude knowing that Carrollton's really good. They're really well coached. They have all these guys, but I got to think they're going to be in position to make plays and just have that extra emphasized focus, just this being a region opener. So it should be an outstanding game. But let's talk about a couple others. Lowndes Valdosta this week, a big one in South Georgia. What do you think about that matchup and just what both of those teams can do this year, just in terms of competing with Carrolton or East Coweta?
Yeah, that's actually going to be my game of the week this week. So you spoiled it a little bit for me, Greg. But I think this is a big game. This is a region opener for both teams. You can make the argument this is one of the toughest regions in 7A. All teams in this region with Lowndes and Valdosta are 500 or better. You have two teams that are 6-0 in Valdosta and Colquitt, and then the other teams, like I said, are above 500. So I think in any region loss in this could really loom large. Lowndes coming off a major victory a couple weeks ago against Grayson, upset win 24-14. Let's see if they can continue to build that momentum with their team. Can they capture another win against a rival Valdosta, who's undefeated? They come in at 6-0. They've had a great start to the season. Obviously when regional play comes, sometimes, the records kind of go out the window, but I think it's still very major to see how they're going to play, how they're going to stop that Valdosta attack. So, and then also, there's a rivalry because there's a trophy handed out, and you have both of these teams that are very, very good. So I'm curious to see if, can Lowndes do it again? Can they have another big upset victory? Because I think, obviously I think most voting bets would be on Valdosta to come out with the victory, but, can Lowndes rise up and do it again?
Yep, that win over Grayson was huge. It kind of shocked everyone. But then it's so interesting, though, because East Coweta had just beaten Lowndes. So I think it was a combination of them being able to respond from that loss, but also just talks to the talent and toughness of a team like East Coweta to be able to get a win over Lowndes like they did. So, I think it's going to be really interesting. And I keep saying it, 7A. I've never seen it this wide open. There are so many good football teams, but I do want to also mention this last week. Mill Creek, what they continue doing, they have another massive victory against Central Gwinnett, a team that went into it undefeated. Can anyone stop Mill Creek this season? I just don't see how they have any possible weakness on that team. They're so good offensively, and then the defense, they are just getting better and better.
Nah, it's going to be tough. I'm not going to lie to you. You're going to have to come in with a good game plan. You're going to have to try to, attack them. I think you're going to have to loosen them up because they have a very good secondary. Loosen them up with running the football. We've seen Walton kind of come close. But they got a matchup in 2 weeks that should be very interesting. I think a good test for them, too, because they play Buford, I believe, on the road in 2 weeks. I think October 14th. So that should be a really interesting game. I think that game is going to kind of tell us a lot about 7A. Okay, who's really – because, like you said, it's wide open, but who's really the creme de la creme? Who's really going to be there late in the season? So, right now I would say no. There are a few teams that I think can go toe-to-toe with them, but I think overall they just have a complete roster. Hayden Clark, as you mentioned, is having a good season, kind of under the radar. They have a great talent, college-level talent at the receiver position. Good running back, and I think his name's Cam Robinson. They just got talent over the field, Caleb Downs. So, this team just fired on all cylinders. And also, I wanted to mention a great moment there for Coach Lovelady. His daughter got into, I think she won freshman homecoming queen. So, just wanted to shout out that moment as well for him and his family. That was a pretty awesome moment.
Yes, it was. They had just a great week, great win, and they're just playing really enthusiastic football. They're great. But you look at Buford, I think they have the argument of being the best defense in Class 7A so far. No one's putting points up on them. Well, I guess with the exception of Carver Atlanta, but then they shut out Carver Atlanta in the second half. But, they get the 23-3 win over Collins Hill. They get the 10-0, I think it was 10-0 or 14-0 win over Marietta. They held Marietta to 16 yards in the first half. So, that is going to be one to watch for, that Buford-Mill Creek one. I think Mill Creek has the ability to move the ball on anyone, but, man, what a matchup that's going to be. Hughes this past week, another just massive victory. What do you think of Hughes? I think Douglas County might have been their last major hurdle to get through just en route to a perfect season, but they look absolutely unstoppable, and their defense, in my opinion, is the best in 6A. if not
Yeah,
the state.
yeah, I agree. Like I said, it's lethal. They got Terrence Love there in the secondary. They got Joshua Horton, UNC commit. I mean, this is one of the best teams, like we said, going into that game in the state, and they're not playing no games. And I think after that, close loss to Buford in the 6A championship last year, they are, coming for revenge, and they want to win it all. And Coach told me, I've talked to him a couple times this season, that he allowed the players essentially to come to him and say, hey, what do we need to improve in order to win it all and, not fall up short. And he allowed the players to kind of map out a plan and tell him, what they wanted to do. And, they've had that mentality the whole year. And I think you've seen it on the field. They got nothing but star talent all over the field at the offensive line position, at the defensive line, at the quarterback position, running back, the receivers. You got just all kind of people, Kendall Barnes, Prentice Aaron Nolan, Shaquille Middlebrook. You just got players all over the field. And there's only a few teams I think in 6A that can really contend. And like I said, I don't know what the injury status is on Tyre Hardaway, but again, I think he was one of my under the radar players I think that could really do some damage possibly. And even contend, because even in that game, they were only down 11 points at the half. So they played really well with turn over the ball, but they barely won against New Manchester, who still hasn't got a victory this year, last week 10-6. So I'm curious to see, if he's actually coming back this season. I think that's going to be really my storyline.
Yeah, that was a dislocated elbow. That's a tough one, but it is possible. We've seen players come back within the season, but I mean, you look at it. Hughes has outscored the region opponents. They're 153-10. You have C.J. Lockhart. He looks unbelievable as just like a shifty receiver. He's explosive. He's lethal in the red zone. He can just get into the end zone with toughness and just vision and speed. You have Terrence Love. He had 2 touchdowns. And then Justice Savage in the backfield. I think what we're going to see, though, is just Hughes are going to keep building up this momentum. They're going to be able to get a lot of guys into the game because they're going to have these big leads. And I think when they hit the playoffs, I mean, watch out. No one's going to want to be on that side of the bracket or pairing up with them in the playoffs because I think they're going to be fresh. This is still a pretty young team. I mean, Aaron Nolan's only a junior. He's only getting better. And so, I mean, watch out. I think they're just going to be so perfectly red hot once the playoffs start. Another team, though, that has been making tremendous noise this season is Gainesville. I mean, no one really saw that one coming. I mean, they were decent last year, but with Coach Josh Nebwitt coming over from Hoover, I mean, they're number 5 right now. What do you think about that? Just a program like Gainesville also seemingly getting better and better and just making noise week in and week out.
I don't know too much about their roster, but I can say this. I'm not really too surprised. Last year I was able to actually cover the game when they played North Gwinnett and really just took over that game. And Josh Niblett obviously knows what he's doing. Comes from a great tradition program over there in Alabama at Hoover, one of the best probably in that state. So I'm not really shocked of what they're doing this year. I think he's a great head coach, and he's been, using his talent in the right ways and getting his playmakers the ball. And I think that's a team, like I said, as well, that, come playoff time also can make some major damage too. But obviously I got to scout their roster a little bit more, find out a little bit more about their players. But I'm not really surprised with their success this season. I think they have a great head coach, and I think, the team embodies the head coach and their mentality.
Yep, it's Naeem Cheeks. He was there last year, and he's a senior now, and he's been outstanding at running back. He had over 200 yards against Lanier, 3 touchdowns. And then Baxter Wright, he's an exciting quarterback. I think when we saw him last year in Corky Kell, I mean, he had some plays that reminded me of Johnny Manziel. He is very tough to bring down. He has the ability to extend plays, and then you just think of that attitude and excitement that Coach Niblett's brought to the program. I mean, anything's possible for them. Looking at some of these other ones, what else stood out? I mean, I think what was interesting to me was that Stars Mill game, a 3-0 loss. I mean, that is a tough pill to swallow for them, just that region loss to Trinity Christian.
Yeah, I think that was one of the major upsets this past week. Stars Mill, I believe, came in undefeated. I think they were 4-0 at one point, and then 2 region losses. It's kind of rough. Like I said, that's one of the tougher regions as well. LaGrange is in there, Trinity Christian, Stars Mill. It's another good team in there, too, I can't think of. But, yeah, I just think that those 2 losses are huge. They're going to probably have to try to win out now in order to get to the postseason. But I think Stars Mills does have a talented team. It's just 2 rough weeks. But a couple things that stood out to me actually is North Atlanta. North Atlanta, my biggest question, can they start off to the region strong? They got St. Pius this week. They're 4-1 this year. Last year we saw they went 4-0, lost 4 straight, then won 2 more, missed out on a 3-way tie, was 2-3 in the region. Can they get off to a good start in the St. Pius? I think it's a very winnable region for them. The 2 toughest teams they're going to face is Dunwoody and Marist, who are both 4-2. So I'm curious to see, how are they going to perform in their region. They got playmakers. Trey London's having a great season so far. Randolph Smith, Hunter Davis, Zayden Business out in the secondary. They play tonight. So I'm curious to see. I'm going to be looking at the result of that game after it got pushed back because of the hurricane. So I'm curious to see how they're going to perform. And I wanted to shout out Calhoun. Calhoun actually upset at Cartersville 50-48 in the 3 overtime game. I believe they had, according to Todd Holcomb, and I read his blog, they have a 62-game, region win streak, which is really befuddling. That kind of really surprised me. But yeah, they went in there, and they shut them down in the second half for the most part until overtime. Cartersville did. They were up. Calhoun was up 28-14 in that game. But they came back second half, shut them down, scored 14 in the fourth, tied the game, went to OT, and then Calhoun just kind of took over, scored 22 points there late, and they were able to come away with the victory. But Malachi Jeffries, obviously for Cartersville, played really well in that one. 156 yards rushing, 4 TDs. But I think what really helped Calhoun in that one was forcing turnovers from the quarterback. He had 2 interceptions in that game. I think that's what really helped them out. And, when you can create turnovers and you're able to score on the other side of it, I think that says a lot. But for them to get that big region win, I think goes a lot, a long way for Calhoun and building momentum and trying to, eventually hit the postseason.
Absolutely. I mean, they were up 28-7, and then to be able to come away and survive a triple overtime game, I mean, that was huge. And I think that's just another interesting situation in 6A. Calhoun loses pretty big to Blessed Trinity to start the season, and then you look at BT this last week just getting steamrolled by Roswell. So it's like, was that just a situation where it was just a rivalry game and Roswell came out just healthier, more prepared, or is Roswell the real deal? And was their only hiccup just one to Milton? But, I mean, I think that's a very good point, and I totally was forgetting that North Atlanta St. Pius game's tonight. That's going to be exciting.
Yeah, I think that'll be a good one. I'm hoping, for North Atlanta, they're able to, win that game. I think they have a very talented team, and I'm just hoping they can pull that one out and, just continue that momentum, because you hate to see them have that kind of the same thing they had last year. But I don't think it'll happen. They have a really good roster. And then one more thing, too, Craig, I wanted to point out is that, Class 5A, Loganville, who's number, I think, 6 in the AJC rankings, is 7-0 for the first time since 1971. They won this past week 13-10 against Eastside in Region 8. So I think a matchup, too, to keep an eye on, Craig, in a few weeks is going to be Low versus Jefferson. Jefferson is 4-2 right now. Obviously, we know they're very talented. 5-star running back Sammy Brown, one of the best prospects, I think, in the class of 2024, according to 247 Sports. I think he's like 1 or 2. And then they have Elijah DeWitt, who's an underrated playmaker on the outside. I got to see him in person against Oconee County. They lost that one 9-7, but he had some great plays in that one when they were shutting down the run, didn't allow Sammy Brown to really get going. He was making plays on the outside all day, and I thought they could have, went to him a couple more times, and I think he would have came through for them. So I think that's going to be an interesting matchup. And then for Loganville, can Jefferson slow down Solomon Leslie? Right now he has 1,046 yards rushing, 12 touchdowns, and 6 runs of 100+ yards. So integral part of their offense. That's how they blow him down. Can they make, a Loganville pass? And Loganville's having a great season so far. I think they're either 3-0 or 4-0 in the region so far. So I think that'll be one of the latter games in the region, but that should be a very good one. That one may just be my game of the week come that time, because I think that those two matchups are going to be, or that matchup's going to be very good.
Yeah, that will. And just one more thing on North Atlanta. I think during their hot start, they were so successful because they kind of found that spark in the game. It's like, okay, we have this injury or whatever, and then the player would step up. We'd see Trey Lennon, we'd see these other guys get them going. It seems like maybe what happened against Wheeler is they kind of didn't have that going for them. They have some turnovers, but I think if they bring a good game plan and that confidence into a matchup like St. Pius, they can replicate that excitement they had just when they were kind of just playing looser and just making the plays like they do. I think it's just about finding their identity again and just believing in the game plan, because, I mean, in the first couple weeks of the season, you don't really know who's going to be stepping up, and it seems like that's when they were really dangerous, just blowing teams out and having exciting plays. So we'll see, and we'll definitely be talking about that one after it unfolds. Well, Najeh, thank you so much for coming on, reminding me of all these other games we missed. Gosh, the Cartersville one, it was a crazy week of games just over that stretch, and we'll be back though on Wednesday to talk about more, and I'm looking forward to your team previews for these matchups.
Yes, sir. I'll see you then.
Awesome. All right. So yeah, it's Monday. We're getting kind of all this figured out, twisting the kaleidoscope back to focus on the road ahead. And one more reminder, go to scoreatl.com, get your tickets to the Georgia High School Football Hall of Fame. It is coming up. It's rapidly approaching. Less than I'm giving Graham anxiety just by talking about it. Now, we got a lot of work to do still, but it is going to be very exciting. It's on October 22nd at the College Football Hall of Fame. We have a lot of the guests coming. They're bringing their families. It's just going to be a really fun and historic celebration of Georgia high school football. We're going to have all these different decades recognized. There's going to be coaches there, former players, former teammates, the media members, all the board members, Graham and myself, but guys like Rusty Manziel, Dave Hunter. I mean, there's just so many people that have been just huge champions of Georgia high school football that are going to be there. And if you're just a fan of Georgia, if you're a fan of the state, I mean, it would be a fun way to get to experience a special occasion like that for the launch of the Hall of Fame. Once again, go to scoreatl.com for tickets there. We'll be back on Wednesday.